Your first metal clay experience. I know the feeling of being a little intimidated when you first see and touch silver metal clay for the first time. I tried to dissect my first piece, touching it like it was something organic in a biology lab. Then here I am, a decade and well over 1,000 creations later, thinking back at that first moment like it was yesterday. Okay, though, let's begin. Here are 8 easy steps for your first encounter. They are 1. Decide and design. What will you make? Roll, texture 2, and or cut is number 2. 3 is dry. 4 is sand and drill. 5 is fire. 6 is brass brush. 7 is patina. 8 is polish and add findings. Step 1. Decide and design. This is where you see in your mind's eye what you want to make and decide how to make it. Today I want to make a round charm to put on a necklace. Charms are very versatile. You can put a charm on a bracelet or a chain for a necklace or hang it from a key fob or a cell phone case or use it as a zipper pull or a fan pull and much more. I'm going to use a rubber stamp today for decorating my charm, and I decide on a leaf stamp. I'm cheating here, showing you my final piece, but this was what was in my mind's eye at the very beginning. And if I had something else pictured and ended up with this, that's part of the fun too. I decided to use silver metal clay called PMC3. It is fine silver or 99.9% silver. You can purchase it in a variety of amounts or packages. It comes in 9 grams, 16 grams, 25 grams, and 50-gram packages. I began here with 9 grams just so you could get an idea of what 9 grams looks like. Step 2. Roll, texture, and or cut. A good habit to get into, in case you find yourself in love with metal clay and do lots more with it, is to gather all your tools ahead of time. So I printed out my household and specialty toolkit lists. These are lists of tools that I then assembled on my table. I discovered that my lists have way more items on them that I use in this video, or possibly could use for my first time. But here are the items I gathered from within my house, my household toolkit. And here are the items that I had to grab from my studio, the more unusual tools. Altogether, these total less than $100 if you had to start from scratch and purchase them. So here they are all on my kitchen table. I'm going to film this video at my table instead of in my studio to show you how it is possible to make a necklace in your home. My kitchen table has a nice flat working surface on which I can work, and the light is pretty good. If my working surface was not perfectly flat, I could have maybe worked on a breadboard or something like this. It's a painter's palette, something that's flat and smooth. Metal clay has some qualities you will want to know about ahead of time. Like ceramic clay, it dries out when exposed to air. So first I'm going to prepare a container that will hold my leftover clay when I'm finished working with it. I leave clay out in the ambient air as little as possible. I have the container, I have some plastic food wrap, I have a water mister. And I thought I may as well mist my plastic now, so that's what I did. And I set this set up close by. Okay, let's gather some more tools. I have my roller, my playing cards, a needle. You could use an X-Acto knife or a scalpel instead of a needle. I have a hole template and my rubber stamp and a rolling mat. Instead of this Teflon, which is kind of a specialty tool, I will cut open a Ziploc bag and use one side of it for my rolling mat. Another quality of metal clay is it sticks to most surfaces that it touches. So the first thing I do is put some anti-stick oil on anything the clay will touch. I poured way too much olive oil on my hands. After I got rid of most of it, I spread it on my hands and on the roller and the Ziploc, my rolling mat. What else? Oh, I need to put it on the rubber stamp and on at least one side of the whole template. A thin film of oil is quite enough. On a whim, I decided my charm will be 4 cards thick, so I counted out 2 stacks of 4 cards. Now, I had previously weighed out 9 grams of PMC3, which you see here, and I worked my clay like it's a tiny ball of bread dough. Then I rolled it into a ball, and then I flattened it between my palms a little bit. Most often, people roll clay, but that is not always necessary. I could simply flatten it like this. Fingerprints make nice charms too. But for teaching purposes, I rolled this clay. I rolled it with the roller. The clay stuck to the roller. That was okay. I helped it off. I took my rubber stamp and stamped the clay 2 times. This way, I got to decide which leaf stamp I liked better. I placed the hole in my whole template over the leaf, making sure I left a little more room at the top for the hole. Then I took the needle and cut around the hole. Then I made a slice from the charm to the edge of my clay and I peeled the excess away. Now before I did anything else, I took my leftover clay and rolled it up in the plastic wrap that I had prepared earlier. This is how much clay I had left over, enough for many more charms, and I rolled that clay up and I put it in my container. Step 3, dry. I plopped my charm onto a Mr. Coffee cup warmer to dry the clay. I could have left it sit at room temperature overnight. A candle warmer works just as well as a coffee cup warmer to accelerate the drying. I checked the charm often to make sure it did not warp as it dried. I flipped it over and just pressed a little bit. Step 4, sand and drill. A lot of metal clay newbies undervalue this step, knowing that how nice your piece looks when finished depends a lot on sanding the dry clay. My tools in this step consisted of an emery board, sanding sponges or sanding papers if you have those, and a piece of cardstock folded. The cardstock acts as a catch tray, and I wanted to save my filings. I also needed my drill bit and my burr bit and an X-Acto knife. I sanded first with an emery board because it was the coarsest file I had. Then I moved on to some sanding sponges or papers of finer grit and finer grit. And here was my charm so far. Now I needed to drill the hole so I could hang my charm, so I marked where I wanted my hole with a pencil. I always like to start holes with an X-Acto knife or scalpel for accuracy. Then I moved on to the drill bit, supporting the back of the charm with my finger and applying as little pressure as possible. Then I moved on to the burr bit to put a sweet little bevel or angle on the edge of the hole. If it didn't have a burr bit, an X-Acto knife would have put a similar angle on the hole. Then I poured my filings into a fresh container. If you work with metal clay a lot, these add up and you can make them into more clay for yourself or turn them in as silver scrap for money or credit. Step 5. This is the step that makes folks nervous. I have taught for over 10 years and have never seen a creation damage in this step or had any accident other than someone once touched their arm to the torch after it was turned off but was still hot. Tools to gather include a fire brick or soldering brick like I have here. So I placed my brick on a cookie sheet to catch the crumbs that it left behind and to protect my table in case I dropped my hot charm. And you need a torch with butane in it and a 2-minute timer. I also had ready a tweezers, again in case I dropped my heart charm, and a glass of water for when I was finished firing. I put my charm on the brick and I lit my torch. Now the hottest part of the flame is at the end of the inner blue flame where I am pointing here. You can also see the hottest part in this diagram, and this is what you use for pointing your flame. So I continued to move the torch closer to the charm and toward my charm slowly. As I moved, I imagined the point of the flame was drawing a circle on the charm, slightly smaller than the charm, and by doing this, I was heating the charm evenly. This took a while, and I kept circling and moving in closer until I saw a little smoke with a tiny flame. And then here is more smoke, and here is some more, and more, and eventually fire. I only removed the torch here so that you could see the smoke and fire. Otherwise, I should have kept it going and just circling my charm and watching the whole time. You can see my charm is turning white and it's curling. And I kept going because what I need to see or want to see is a soft orange glow. And you can start to see this. And you want a light orange, a creamsicle color like this. Sometimes you actually need to darken your workspace a little to see this orange glow more readily. When you do see the orange glow, start your 2-minute timer and keep the heat on. If my charm turned hunter or neon orange, like I'm trying to show you here, that would be too hot. If the recessed areas glow neon orange, it is too hot. Simply move your torch away a little bit. So after my 2-minute timer went off, I turned off my torch and set it aside. Then I brought my glass of water to the cookie tray and simply dropped my charm into the water, and this is called quenching. The charm then is instantly cool. Step 6, brass brush. Now I brushed my charm with the brass brush. If you want to know why my charm looks like chalk at this point, it is because the silver molecules on its surface are standing up like trees in a thick forest. Ambient light comes in and gets caught in those trees of silver so that it cannot bounce off and reflect into your eyes. Brass brushing knocks down and compresses those towers of silver, making them flat, so that now ambient light reflects off the charm surface and into one's eyes, and the charm starts to look like silver. Remember to brass brush the edges. Step 7, patina. It is ironic now that my charm looks like silver that I was going to turn it dark by dipping it into a patina. Patina is an agent that tarnishes silver rapidly. I dropped a chunk of liver of sulfur into a glass of warm water, and I added baking soda to another glass of warm water. I hung my charm from a wire and dipped and swirled it in the liver of sulfur and then transferred it to the baking soda solution, which stops the patina process. Then I set it on a paper towel. Step 8. Finish and polish and add findings. I took a polishing pad and rubbed the charm, which is rubbing the black off. The black stayed in the recessed areas and gave my charm depth and character. The polishing cloth resulted in a shiny look. If I had wanted a more matte finish, I could have taken my sanding sponge or paper and made quick little strokes like I am here. And this would have resulted in a more rustic, non-shiny look. Then I wanted a tiny bit of bling, so I took a stainless steel object, in this case a very old-fashioned kitchen tool, and ran it along the edges as hard as I could. Kind of an angle on the top of the charm, an angle on the back of the charm, and then on the very flat of the edge. This is called burnishing, and it compresses the silver even more for a reflective shine, like this. Lastly, I added my findings, which in this case consisted of an O-ring and a necklace chain. And here is my final necklace. Now this entire process, making this charm in real time, took about twice as long as it took you to watch this video. Once you gather your tools, it's incredibly easy and so much fun. I can only wonder what you will make.